Welcome to today's workshop. Appreciate your coming in. We're going to be hearing from all our CCOs in relation to their statements of intent, which we'll be considering at our meeting on the 20th of May. We've asked CCOs to focus on the key financials and any opportunities and challenges, and what the differences are between what they're going to talk to us today about and what they've done previously. So what are the market conditions, the economic conditions that are actually bringing these on to us. So each CCO has up to 20 minutes and will set the timer for 10 minutes at a time to help guide presenters and leave enough time at the end of presentations for the all-important questions and discussions from councillors. We'll take a 5-minute break after the third presentation for a cup of tea. So to start off with, Anna, would you like to say something now to actually set the scene?
Thank you, Chair. Ahi Mārie, everybody. So nice to see you. I just thought I'd just give a bit of context, particularly for our new elected members who haven't been through a CCO SOI process before. SOIs are set with a 3-year horizon, so a reminder in line with the LTP. So we're actually in year 2 of those. So what we expect to see from our CCOs as a continuation of their strategy from last year. They are divided into 2 sections: our overall broad expectations of how CCOs are aligning to our council strategic directions and our core strategies, and then a specific set of expectations. Today is the opportunity for you to give your feedback as governors to make sure that our CCOs are responding to our strategic direction as a council, and just also noting that since the original statements of expectations were sent to CCOs last year, that process kicked off in December. The Triennium Plan has also been set, so noting for a couple of our CCOs that will be reflected in today's workshop feedback as well. So thank you very much, Chair.
Great, thanks. Shanna. Okay, to kick off, we'd like to invite our largest CCO, Wellington NZ, Mark and Tracy, if you'd like to come up and tell us what's happening. Thank you. As mentioned, you have 20 minutes. We'll leave 10 minutes to speak, and then we'll see how the questions go. Great, thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Tēnā koutou katoa. I'm just going to kick off with just a really quick framing thought before Mark takes you through the presentation. I just want to note that this is our letter of expectation this year was such a welcome sight. I've been in this role for a couple of years now, and in the past we've had 2 letters of expectations from 2 different shareholders. We've had really lengthy letters of expectations with multiple expectations and no seeming strategic kind of view. And this year's is just the one so strategically aligned across the 2 shareholders, and so much easier to see what is the strategic intent from council. So I just wanted to start with a really big thank you for that. That's made it so much easier for us to align that with our strategy, and also to do the hard thinking that you expect us to do in terms of what our priorities are and what the trade-offs need to be, particularly in the current climate. So on that note, over to you, Max. Thank you.
Thank you, Tracy, and kia ora tātou e te whānau. Great to see you all again, and again, thank you for the opportunity to present our draft statement of intent. Also endorse Tracy's comments as well around the alignment across both of our shareholders. I think, as Tracy said, it does allow us to focus a lot more clearly on where we continue to add value and where we anticipate that we'll add value over the coming year. So look, we've taken a very focused approach to our SOI, really sort of concentrating on our greatest economic impact, not only to the Wellington City, but through our other shareholder, Greater Wellington Regional Council, in terms of the wider regional expectations that they have asked us to do as well. Where we best add value as Wellington NZ is very much focused around jobs and spend. We've had this discussion around this table previously, and that's certainly via our economic development role, focusing on key industry sectors, tech and screen that feature in the Regional Economic Development Plan. But also, I think, are very consistent with Wellington City Council's newly thought-through economic plan themselves, and some of the other events that we do through our activations. So, jobs and spend linked very closely to economic development plan, but from a regional impact to city impact, very much is driven by the activation we do in events and spend. We're very proud as Wellington NZ that our activities over the last financial year have contributed over $200 million to direct economic impact across the city, which is an 800% return on investment through council and regional council as well. We're very conscious that for a strong and prosperous region, we need a vibrant and engaged city, capital city, and we are collectively aware of the momentum I think we're building as a city in terms of ensuring that we remain vibrant and engaged. And the mahi that we do through Wellington NZ, the mahi we do through Creative NZ, I think is arguably more important now than it has been for some time. I do just want to align aspects of our statement of intent with some of the key focus areas for Wellington City Council in terms of your key strategic focus areas. In terms of economic development, certainly there's a very clear link there through our key focus area on jobs and spend. But cultural wellbeing, social wellbeing, environmental wellbeing, I'm very confident that we've addressed all those. And in fact, probably integrate a lot of these things into our day-to-day business as well. And we've done that in a very conscious way. Through our suggested work program. So I just want to acknowledge the alignment with the Wellington City Council suite of strategies as well. In terms of the specific strategies, and again the expectations from our shareholders, while we recognise that all of those 9 expectations remain really important to the vibrancy and the well-being of the city and the region. Our headline expectation really, I think, remains around boosting jobs and spend. There are a number of ways we do that, primarily as a long-term investment. The long-term investment is through the sorry, I think you asked a question. The long-term investment is through the Regional Economic Development Plan. There's 33 initiatives in that plan, and they're both supported by Wellington Regional Council and Greater Wellington. But just reiterate that work through the Regional Economic Development Plan is essentially funded through Greater Wellington Regional Council. In the medium term, focus on jobs remains through our Regional Business Partners program. Again, a lot of that funding is through central government, and we access that and utilise that to the advantage of Wellington and the region through ongoing discussions with Wellington Regional Council and Wellington City Council. We continue to focus on 2 key sectors, being technology, the work we're doing through our shareholder company, CHQ, in terms of supporting jobs in the tech sector, particularly around the startups and the scale-ups. Again, we've talked about at length, and that work continues, and the fact we've got a tech strategy now for the city, I think, is a significant step forward that we're linking our statement of intent to. Screen sector, and again, increasingly around creative tech, and I note we're doing quite a bit of work in collaboration with CHQ this year, particularly around the creative tech space, and an ongoing focus on central Wellington business support. In the short term, from a boosting and jobs perspective. We do that through direct and indirect benefit through our events and tourism work. And again, I think we can see some of the opportunities through Central City in terms of where that strategy continues to sit. I do note some really exciting opportunities through some of our civic assets, Tākina, the work we're doing through our venues, the work we're doing and will continue to do through the town hall as well. Again, some really exciting opportunities to continue to ensure that from a spend and from a civic assets perspective, they're utilised as smartly as we can. And we've got a full program and suite of activities that we intend to activate through them. Most of those are directly related to our contractual relationships with the City Council as well. As Anna said, we are absolutely conscious that since submitting our statement of intent, there's been the release of the Mayor's Triennium Plan, which makes reference to Wellington NZ, and we certainly welcome the inclusion of Wellington NZ in that Triennium Plan. We're absolutely confident that what's listed in that plan is consistent with our proposals through the draft SOI. We've had a number of internal discussions since the release of that plan, both at a board level and at an SLT level, to ensure consistency and ensure that we've got a proposed way forward that we can easily incorporate into our statement of intent, and we look forward to incorporating those components of the Triennium plan into our final statement of intent as well. And just finally, I just want to touch on the budget. We have submitted to Council a draft budget. Again, we continue to work and ensure we're taking a slightly different approach to our budgeting this year, very much driven by where we see through our stakeholders and our governance structure the greatest return on investment. That will and could well lead to some difficult decisions in terms of potentially some areas that we might consider dropping, again in consultation with our shareholders, but very much a focus on the greatest return on investment to our city and to our region. And we also acknowledge the work of the Revenue and the Finance Value Working Group in terms of some proposals that are currently gone out for consultation. We look forward to engaging in that process, recognising that some of those budget implications may have opportunity costs for our budget. But again, we enjoy the ongoing relationship we have with Council in terms of determining where that flexibility of budget best fits with some of our tagged funding as well. So look, happy to take any questions on any of those components. We're comfortable in terms of where we sit. We see some very strong strategic focuses for us as an organisation in conjunction with our CHQ partners, and again continue to look forward to our shareholders in ensuring that we provide the greatest maximum benefit to the region and the city.
Great, thanks very much, Mark. I have a quick question, if that's okay, before Councillor McNulty. You mentioned the town hall. Now, are you already, because we know that it's not opening until 2027, are you already thinking about what are the special types of engagements that would actually be attracted to the town hall rather than, say, a conference centre like Tākina?
Yeah. So we're working very closely with our promotion, our promoters in terms of an initial festival for the opening of the town hall, but ongoing what a program looks like in conjunction with the obligations that we have in the town hall through the NZSO and Wellington School of Music as well. But a great facility to have on board.
Yes, I'm really looking forward to that too. No, thank you. Deputy Mayor
Yeah,
McNulty.
the chair's touched on it. I have a huge nervousness around the town hall from some of the stakeholders that I've sat that this is just going to be another Tākina that is incredibly OPEX heavy on the balance sheet and difficult to utilise. So I guess what I'm asking for is, are there discussions or options that you're able to bring to this table before the opening of the town hall, so we're giving it the best chance possible to not cost the ratepayers $5 to $10 million sitting there as basically a money sink before it opens? Because if there are things we need to change around its strategy or ownership or direction or utilisation, then I think I can speak relatively confidently for the table that we need to see those changes made in advance rather than trying to fill a hole later on.
Yeah, no, thanks, Councillor. And look, the short answer is yes. We're very engaged with Wellington City in terms of, and the other residents in there in terms of the ongoing operations of that building. We have flagged some concerns back to council in terms of some of the operating environment that we work through. We have the operating licence for the town hall, but we need to do that in conjunction with our other partners in there as well. So some of those concerns have already been flagged, and we're just working through those processes at the moment.
So just to follow up, then I guess it comes to you, and when can you talk to us when we might be able to see those concerns as elected members?
I'd have to talk to James Roberts because the Creative Capital team and his business unit has been working with Wellington City Council to design that operating model, looking after obviously the from a project, the customer-facing team in terms of how the National Music Centre is all going to work. So I will come back to you on that, but I can't give you an answer right now, but I'll come back to you after the meeting once I've spoken to James.
Great, thank you. Councillor Tiffin Parker.
My understanding is when the negotiations around Town Hall have gone through that perhaps there hasn't been the engagement from Wellington City Council directly with you guys who are expected to look after the venue, specifically around the number of days available to the NZSO, and also the fact that you guys have not been given the bar, which I believe is about a $500,000 cost. So to Council, Deputy Mayor McNulty's point, how much has Wellington City Council set you guys up to actually have a cost coming back to us in future times due to the fact that we haven't actually engaged early enough with you in the preparation and in the deeds? And I think it's really important that we get that out on the table, because that's my understanding.
Yeah. Look. That's part of the suite of.
Oh, sorry, mate. Could you just explain the main issue there? In the costing issues?
Sure. So look, one of the challenges that we have potential challenges we have in terms of the town hall under the contractual obligations that we're operating in is that the NZSO has essentially first rights of use of that building for 135 days a year, which very much limits the ability of ours to promote it for community and touring events. Those days aren't set yet, so as a calendar, and particularly given the fact that from an events perspective, you tend to book out at least 6 months in advance, sometimes more. Securing those available dates is certainly an issue. And as a result of that, we have estimated a potential loss of revenue in terms of what that might look like. The other component of that is that we were unsuccessful in the tender for the operating the bar process. That has quite significant operational issues for us in terms of a seamless visitor experience, and particularly when you're running significant events, the ability to coordinate bars with break times and that sort of stuff, and interval times is quite significant as well. We do anticipate from a loss of revenue perspective that would be circa around about $500,000. So look, we have flagged to council that that our estimate in terms of where we're sitting is potentially on the backward foot of $1.3 million before we open the front doors.
Sorry, is that annually?
Yes.
But so I just want to highlight, though, that a lot of that cost comes down to the arrangements we've put in place.
Correct.
With the town hall, so it's actually not within your grasp, because we're asking you guys to run this at a net cost or a profit, but we've actually set up a situation where that becomes highly unlikely to happen.
Correct.
And I think that's really important for us as a council to acknowledge, is that what we're doing in the background when we set up our CCOs, we have to be working in the best interest for them going forward as well.
Yep, correct, Councillor.
Great, thanks very much. Councillor Roedi, please.
Kia ora, through the chair. This is probably a question for the chair, Tracy. Kia ora. Are you aware of, first of all, two parts to it, are you aware of the associate trustee program through the Stadium Trust, and is there something similar planned with Mana Whenua for Wellington NZ?
Thank you. Yeah, I've expressed to Rachel Tulele, who's sort of developing up that associate councillor approach, a strong interest in being a fast follower and being part of that as well. I think it's an awesome approach and we'd love to be part of it. And so obviously she's working with the Takahiri team to make that work, so I've expressed our interest in that. And we also, Mark and I were on Saturday with the regional iwi leadership group also talking about other governance opportunities and just making sure we're really aligned in terms of just thinking about how we work together and what the governance opportunities are there.
Great, thanks. Are there any more questions? No more questions? All right. Oh, sorry.
So I suppose I'm daylighting, but in terms of the working groups, obviously made some recommendations around some areas within Wellington NZ, but you will come back to us if you believe that if we've recommended a reduction, but you think that reduction can be recognised somewhere else that's going to be less value, you're coming back with such advice.
Yes, that's the expectation. Our preference, I think, would be to take a less targeted approach, even if we agree on a certain amount. But everything will have an opportunity cost. But our expectation is that we will come back with you with some recommendations around those. Yeah.
Great, thanks. Mark, I have a question just on following up with Carl's question. When the NZSO has a concert in the town hall, you're talking about the 135 days that they booked it up for, is there any return or any revenue to the council when they have these concerts, or is that actually part of the package that they have with the town hall?
Yes, there could be, and the 135 days is at their discretion as to how they might want to use that. So you'd be aware that also embedded in the town hall is world-class recording facilities, and so we would anticipate through the NZSO that there will be opportunities for recordings and those sorts of things as part of that package as well.
Through you, Chair, one thing we are just working through at the moment with those additional operation requirements that we've passed on to Wellington NZ for the operation of the town hall is how we fund that, so that as a commitment from the officers with them not getting the bar, that there has to be a way that we can do that through other leasing income. So we're just working through in the back details of them at the moment, but definitely we will also make sure that there is a briefing on the town hall operating model that comes back to this table.
Yeah.
Great.
Thank you.
Are there any more questions? No more questions? Great. Thanks very much, Mark. Tracy, much appreciated. Thank you again. Right. I'd now like to call up Tansy and Fergus from the cable car. Thank you. Welcome again. Great to see you.
Kia ora katoa, ko Fergus Brown tōku ingoa. Good to see you all, and thank you for the opportunity to talk to you about our statement of intent. I'll just make a couple of opening comments and pass on to the expert, Tansy, who will get down into the detail. We have three really key focus areas for this coming year, and the whole organisation has a real laser focus on these areas. The first one is around health and safety, and especially our seismic resilience. As you know, the long-term plan funded this work, and this is continuing on now with especially around the seismic resilience of our bridges and what we have to do to improve those if needed. The second thing, which is also relates to this or comes into play, is the planning or the early planning for the replacement of our famous red cars. Anything we do now has to take into account the fact that we will have new cars somewhere between 2030 and 2035. So it will have an impact on what we are doing now, and we don't want to be wasting money. We want to be making sure we're investing. And the third key focus is, in fact, profitability. As you can see from our financial highlights, we are a profit-making business. We intend to stay that way, but there are a number of challenges. And as you can see just through the downturn in cruise ship numbers, which we've spoken to you before, there has been a real financial impact. We're looking under every stone and behind every cupboard to see where we can find more revenue and where we can control costs. We want to remain a financially sustainable business, and we'll be doing everything we can to ensure that that happens. I'll now pass over to Tansy.
Thanks, Fergus. I was just thinking after 124 years, you wouldn't want to look under every stone. There's some pretty dodgy things there. Thanks, everyone. I will appreciate that you've been up since Sparrow Fart, and so I'll try and keep this light and whip through it. So similar to last year, I'll go through the key activities under our 5 strategic focus areas. So we try and everything that comes from this letter of expectations and everything else that we plan to do, I try and slot into one of the 5 strategic pillars that we put in place a few years ago. So things like the specific expectations around car replacement and seismic, they go into Care for Our Taonga. The stuff around cruise goes into partnerships, and Kelburn Terminus Precinct goes under supercharging our visitor experience, and then everything else sort of flows in behind that. So just going through them quickly. So the first one around Care for Our Taonga, this is all about asset infrastructure, resilience, making sure that we're safe, secure, reliable, and really fit for the future demand that we expect. Last year was really big for us in this area. We, of course, spent $220,000 on the panel repairs on Car 2, EEK, and another $200,000 on the passenger gates, plus various other bits of non-LTP capex. So the real focus for us in this focus area will be the bridge strengthening, as Fergus mentioned. And also, I haven't mentioned this to you, but I am going to mention it now, we might need to do some upgrades to Car 1. So we were hoping that Car 1 would make it through to replacement. Now that we've done Car 2 and it looks all pretty, we're looking at Car 1 and thinking it looks a bit dodge. So, but we'll have to, as Fergus said, just make sure that we don't over-invest in that car, given that we're going to be replacing it. So we'll come up with some design options that keep it safe, but yeah. And yeah, we'll also be looking at carbon reduction initiatives. So we've started talking to Mike and the team here again about solar panels, which is something that we want to do either on the roof or down the tracks or something innovative. The other thing with Car 1 that I've just realised from a meeting a couple of weeks ago is that we need to time that if we're going to do it with the possibility of the second terrace tunnel. So we've had a meeting with NZTA now to understand what that looks like. Not as bad as I thought it might be, but the whole of the Clifton car park area sounds like it'll be taken out for us, and that would be somewhere that we would need to access if we were going to do various bits of work. So we're just quite conscious of that. Second one, leveraging our tourism mana. Of course, this is all about driving demand to the cable car and revenue growth. So it includes the top of the cable car precinct, keeping that vibrant, having events and whatever festivals or charitable fundraising things that we can have there. And probably, I think, that thing of taking the opportunity to have anyone who wants to come to the cable car and promote or shoot or broadcast, radio stations and stuff. But that picture there of the Women's Amateur Asia Pacific, so they came to the cable car for ages, jump shots and lots of photos. When that was on Sky Sport, that was broadcast to 80 countries and to audience of millions. And there was a 30-second ad broadcast on that, which had about 10 seconds of the cable car. Wellington NZ put it all together. Thank you so much again. Awesome. I got lots of calls from golf friends who are watching it going, hey, you guys. But, you just can't buy that sort of advertising space. So just being really open to whatever opportunities come through those channels. Visitor experience, once we've generated all that demand, it's just obviously about giving them a really good experience, and that's physical, digital, so upgrading our website, making sure that's a good experience, but just that end-to-end customer journey. We're going to do some more in the accessibility space, so we're obviously fully accessible, and we have done things like we've got an audio on the car, but if you're hard of hearing, that's no good. So we've got the scripts on the website as well now. But we are going to get a company to come in and do another full accessibility audit just to see where we could make some improvements. Product development, content and channels review. So I put a strategy in place a couple of years ago around our digital content, digital content strategy. So just thinking about the audiences that we're trying to reach and what channel to reach them on and what sort of content you're going to feed up to them. So that's been really successful for the one sales and marketing person I have who does all of our social channels work. So we'll review that, and then just marketing collaboration with fellow CCOs and other companies. That was Weta with a Hobbit breakfast, the zoo. Yay, Karen. 120th birthday. So actually tonight there'll be people coming in after hours putting decals on the car, and we've got a cutout in the terminal and just sort of cross-promoting each other, encouraging visits and Easter egg hunts and stuff. Partner for Success. I guess this one is about amplifying our impact through our partners and collaboration with partners, and potentially, saving costs as well if you can go halves on an expense. So lots of strategic partnerships with lots of acronyms, Victoria University, Business Events Wellington and the like. Really hoping this year to have a good relationship with Wellington Gardens, Mana Whenua, about the signage. I'm not sure if we've talked about it before, but at the viewing platform at the cable top, we own the Kelburn terminal. The viewing platform out the front is obviously operated by the Gardens, but for our customers, they think it's ours. So you go and take a picture of the cable car, you look down and you see that, which looks like it's been chewed by rats and thrown in a pond for 10 years and then put back up again. It's really, really embarrassing, and it just doesn't reflect our business or Wellington. So Bex is super engaged at the Gardens, but it's the usual thing. We need to think about budget. We've said we'll contribute, and more important is making sure that the story that's told on those interpretive panels is the story that needs to be told and is agreed by everyone. Cruise stakeholders, continue that work obviously as per our SOE, and just anything that comes through the CCO operating model review, how we might shared services and that sort of thing. We'll obviously continue with that. Running out of time. Nurture our whānau. This one is just about building that high-performing organisation, so making sure that we've got the right workforce capability in place, lots of training and the like. Thinking a little bit more about that workforce planning thing, just with the things that have been coming up recently with red weather warnings, and Danielle kicked off this week a conversation on our little CCO CEO WhatsApp channel just about fuel and what are you having with your team. And I've got people who are in Kapiti and Upper Hutt and Wainui who start at 6:30 in the morning. I can't just tell them to catch public transport. So starting to think about workforce planning as more of those sorts of things start cropping up. So simple strategy. You get your assets right, grow demand to it, give them a great time when they're here, amplify through partnerships, and then make sure that our people are enabled to deliver. So those are our focus areas. Challenges, you've heard these before, so this is pretty much the environment for the next 3 years, as Fergus said. So cruise, I've got numbers on the next page, which of course creates that really big revenue hole. So making sure that we're really careful about costs and trying to find other forms of revenue. Just with the maturing asset base, I know I've talked about cars, but just bearing in mind that there's other stuff as well, so terminals. So Lambton Terminal, I tried to find the most boring, ugly, horrible photo I could, which is that one, which is Lambton before what it currently is. And if we find that we can actually, we either have to upgrade the terminals when we do the cars, or we might be able to do them out of cycle, which would be preferable, in which case, Lambton is kind of due an upgrade, and we've got quite a few non-LTP CapEx things like that we also need to do, so it's not always just about the cars. Seismic, of course, is always a challenge, increasing costs, consent pressures sometimes, but we're making good progress on that. So I have often mentioned these numbers, so I just wanted to give you a visual of that's the cruise, that's the summer that we're in. So you can see those, I think passenger numbers is the one to focus on. 200 a couple of years ago, next summer we're looking at 74,000. Not finalised yet, but yeah. So that's what you want to look at, not the port calls, because even the difference between the last 2 years is 5 port calls, 42,000 passengers. So we make sure that our statement of intent targets align with where we think those numbers are going to go. Opportunities, if you'd asked me a couple of months ago, perhaps 2027 might have been an opportunity, just not sure where tourism is going to go with what's happening at the moment, but that is always an opportunity for the cable car because more visitors, more people at the cable car. And of the people that are already coming, again, just looking at those new revenue streams around venue hire, partnering with Cable Top Eatery to deliver a wedding reception, for example, which is what happened on that one there. And sustainability leadership, just talking a little bit louder about the fact that we are carbon zero, starting to think about carbon neutral holidays and who there might be in that space selling those holidays. We all know all the travel agents, but where are they starting to specialise perhaps so that we can make sure that we are included in the itinerary rather than just, oh yeah, you should go to the cable car when you're in Wellington. So we're doing some work there, and of course the future car replacement is a huge opportunity, sort of once in a generation opportunity to change. And just last page, so key metrics, cruises taken into account, but we will finalise these numbers for the June draft budget that goes in for the final statement of intent. So we'll wait for the cruise schedule to firm up, which we'll get in a month or two. The insurance premium to be confirmed because that's one of our biggest costs. But we have confirmed 1 week annual maintenance shutdown this year because we had 3 last week, which was a bit hard. And net profits looking not too bad. Of course, that'll be used, some of that, to fund those non-LTP projects like the Panel 1 repairs or another new fence at Clifton, and of course saving for the eventual car replacement. Thank you.
Great, thanks very much, Tansy. We have a few councillors asking questions here, but first I would like to ask you about your comment about deferred maintenance on your existing cars. What sort of maintenance is that? Would that be, I assume that there wouldn't be health and safety issues, or
No.
So what sort of work are you actually deferring because
On car one? On car one?
Yep.
Yeah, so a lot of it is, it's definitely not health and safety, rest assured. It is things like rust. So, unlike a car on the road, if you've got a lot of rust, that's no good if you have an accident. We're not going to run into anything here. So it's cosmetic. The seats, they need all pulling out, stripping, varnishing again. That's going to cost about $15,000. So it's cosmetic stuff. Everything underneath the bogies and all that gets checked daily, weekly, monthly, yearly. Yeah.
Okay, that's great. Thanks. And I'm very impressed with this photo that you've just shown us of possible new cars in the terminal.
Thank you.
Okay, so first of all, we have Councillor Rogers.
Yeah, I was just briefly looking through the statement of financial position. I was wondering if you could explain the deferred tax liability growth over the next 3 years.
I probably could not do that on the spot,
Okay,
Councillor,
that's
but I can come back to you on that.
Thank you.
Deputy Mayor McNulty, thank you.
Yeah, I guess we've developed all of these SOIs ignorant of the oil shock. Is that a fair assumption? So those cruise and visitation numbers, if this is sustained, you're expecting those would be down further, I would assume.
It's really hard to know what will happen with cruise. They've all said that for the rest of the season, they're still coming, although this is not live broadcast, is it? No.
Oh, yes.
Some lines towards the end of the season.
Sorry, it is live broadcast.
Oh, okay. No, it's not.
It is live.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that doesn't actually matter, but towards the end of the season, depending on where all those fuel prices goes for all the coaches, every time a ship comes along and there's 40 coaches, and if they all triple in price, there's trends coming through for future seasons around more close to home cruising, sort of hub and spoke stuff, like in Tasmania and doing 4-day trips, but they're all just riding it out at the moment. So 2 of the biggest cruise lines have all hedged their fuel. Royal Caribbean and Norwegian a bit, but Carnival Cruise Lines haven't. That's in the news. That's all well known. So yeah, it's going to be interesting to see what happens. We might benefit from it.
So those final numbers in June could be, subject to considerable change.
The 73,000 that are forecast for next, I imagine, we might get to 80, or we might drop a couple, or potentially, it just depends how long it goes on for. You could have cruise lines deciding to stay in this part of the world and not try and get through somewhere to get up to the Northern Hemisphere. Certainly not going through the Red Sea or anywhere, so.
Okay,
yeah.
thank you.
Thanks.
Great, thank you. Councillor Osborne?
Excuse me. Thanks very much. First of all, just as you were referring to Cars 1 and 2, I wonder if I could encourage you to think of more exciting names, and maybe a competition with school kids or something might give you some good PR.
I think we get a lot of tahi rua. Yeah.
I actually had a serious question to ask, though, which is, how do you view yourselves as part of the public transport network, especially public transport becoming more and more important, as Deputy Mayor McNulty referred to in the oil crisis? I'm wondering how the trip on the cable car compares price-wise for the bus from Lambton Quay up to Kilburn.
Yeah.
And just whether you think you're maximising your potential revenue generated through public transport.
Yeah, so I guess our public transport audience is immediate Kelburn, and we do have people who catch the bus down from Kurori and then come and catch the cable car right down, and it is about 20% of the business. So we're obviously not part of the public transport system, but as far as growing it, I think there's a limited opportunity with the audience available in the region, I guess, and until we go a step further, that perhaps every bus from Kurori does come through the top of the cable car, and that becomes a transport hub, or you have, charging stations for bikes and stuff up there. Sorry, I'm just trying to, your other question, around the bus fares. We looked at this when Snapper went away. I'd have to check the exact one again, but at that point, I think Snapper was $3.22 or something, and we were about $2.37. The main thing that we do from a public transport perspective is make sure that our locals are looked after. So with we have 5, 10, 25 trip, multi-trip things, and we also have a 3-month membership. So someone who's on public transport every day with a membership is paying about 60 cents a trip. So it's significantly cheaper. Yeah, we can do a bit more to perhaps let people know so that everyone in that area of Kelburn is using the cable car if they're going to work. But most Toucan are, I would suggest, yeah. So.
Oh, sorry, Councillor Randall.
Yes, just noticed in the budget you're actually budgeted out of our transport budget. Perhaps it should be budgeted out of a budget more associated with the recreational side of, or the amenity side of the city. Looking in the budget, in the future there's a $5.5 million across a couple of years. That's really set up to flag the sort of money you might need in terms of the car replacement.
Is that correct? Are you saying in the current budget?
Yeah, that's the current 27, 28, 28, 29.
The LTP, that was a $6.7 million, and that's purely for bridge strengthening. So we've had a payment, and the following year, so construction, like the big chunky bits, will probably come FY 27, 28. Okay. Yeah, that's what.
Okay, thank you. So I've also got. Because I think you do a great job, and certainly the volume of, even if it's not immensely profitable, just being part of Wellington and the volume of people who visit Wellington and use the cable car is impressive in its own right. I'm sure there's a lot of spin-off economic benefit in terms of you being part of the city. As we look at council-controlled organisations, though, you're probably one of the smallest organisations. And I'm just wondering how much you think the that you have a small, good team and how much that is actually an element of your success, or do you struggle being so small?
I don't know. I mean, yeah, we are a small team. You know, oh no, sorry, you're going up there. So you know, so for example, I'm my own EA, marketing manager, policy manager, communications manager, strategic. I write all these, you know. So, but it sort of works. I mean, it's a big business as far as, you know, 1 million passengers. Revenue, we're about 3.5 million, as you know. I don't ever feel understaffed. You know, I've got one person in the sales and marketing team, but she was getting overwhelmed with socials and everything, and so now we don't answer every single Google review. You know, we just like them, and the ones that maybe have a complaint, we'll answer those. So, you know, that took away 20 hours a week of her work. So Fergus has got something to say on this one.
If I could just make a comment, you know, from a governance point of view, we have a very small board. We have a board of 3 people, 2 engineers and myself, who've got more of a tourism background. One of the key things we find is we are very nimble. We can make decisions quickly. If something happens, and a good example was, in fact, the gates, where we identified for our regular health and safety reports that there was a bit of an issue there, and we got onto that straight away and were able to replace that. So I think being a small organisation who does public transport but also is a visitor attraction, so we are both, we've got the ability to move quickly between those spaces. We can work with partners, whether it be the likes of Weta or East by West Ferries or other CCOs. So I think our size is in fact an advantage, not something which is restraining us in any way.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. I really appreciate that feedback.
Great, thanks much. I have one last question about joining in with other CCOs, and would it be a possibility to, say, combine the cable car trip with, say, a trip to Zealandia and have the buses waiting up the top of the cable car to take them on to Zealandia?
Yeah, we do. We're actually working, so in the same way that we combine a cable car with Space Place Visit, so that's a Red Rocket trip. We're talking with the Zealandia team to do something similar. I mean, they can already get on the Zealandia bus and go from the top of the cable car. There's a free shuttle there, but we're looking to hopefully combine a product there as well. Yeah.
Great, excellent. Right, thank you very much for coming in. Much appreciated. We've learnt a lot. Sorry. Councillor.
Sorry, just one really quick question. So obviously all the CCOs seem to get on really well and look very supportive of each other, which is great. Do we work closely with, because obviously you do have a small team, with the marketing teams so that we can actually cross-market and maybe utilise them across several firms or not? Or is there something that the council can help with to facilitate that?
I think with this, like you say, with the small team, so for example, my marketing person has just spent a day at the zoo this week with the marketing team there inside the penguin enclosure doing a collaboration on this weekend's Easter egg hunt. So we do feel like we get the support we need from the other CCOs, yeah. Thank you.
Great, thank you again. Should we take a break now?
We'll do one more.
Okay, one more. So, okay, great. I'd like to ask Karen and Jamie from the Wellington Zoo. Sorry. Martin, sorry. I'm getting ahead of myself. Experience Wellington, Martin, Diana and Alicia, thank you.
We could talk about the zoo if you like. Look, I won't disappoint. There is a pattern emerging, right? The chair says a few words and then hands over to the chief executive. I'm going to do exactly the same. So kia ora koutou, I'm Martin Matthews. I am obviously the chair of the board. I just did want to make a couple of overarching comments to sort of put in context what Diana will say and a little bit of what Anna said at the beginning of the meeting, because of course we're focusing really about sort of what we'll do in the next year, but the next year is part of a multi-year sort of program that's reflected in our statement of intent and our strategic plans. And I do want to acknowledge that sort of a key focus for us ultimately is about creating a much more sustainable organisation both financially and in terms of the impact and value we deliver to the city, and obviously in that context, the council. Over the last 18 months, particularly since Diana took over as Chief Executive 2 years ago, there's been a very strong focus on trying to get kind of the books in order, really. And you know, cost control has been a key focus, and Diana has sort of pushed this to the point where, you know, you can only go so far that way. So we're turning our focus very much to how do we kind of make the organisation a more sustainable organisation by driving stronger commercial performance. And Alicia is here because she is the sort of brains and the driver behind what I think for the last couple of years has been a significant achievement against a trend really that's, you know, not playing to our advantage, including the cruise ship visits. We have actually seen a significant improvement in commercial performance, but it's, you know, it's a part of a longer term journey. Diana has just been through a change leadership process where we're putting in place, she's put in place the team that will work with her to sort of drive over the next year or two an even more sort of aggressive program of thinking about how do we drive improved value. And a key focus for us is to build a stronger brand, build a sense in Wellington of the sort of great experiences we can offer, and ensure Wellingtonians engage with the sort of experiences and the services we provide in a way that actually invites them to put their hands in their pockets and help fund what we do, so that progressively we can become less dependent on council funding. We think that's a kind of win-win for you and us, obviously. So a key focus for us is over the next year or two is very much around driving stronger sort of engagement. And of course, the reopening of the City Gallery creates a platform for us to do some fantastic stuff. The Cornelia Parker opening exhibition will drive massive visitation, we believe, and give us commercial opportunities. And the conversations that we will have later this year with Council around the future of the Wellington Museum similarly create us an opportunity to build a platform about, you know, having a museum for the city that actually delivers experiences that people can engage with and want to come back to increasingly over the years ahead. So we are very much about thinking about how do we drive improved impact and value for the city. And with that, I'll let Diana explain a bit more.
Thanks, Martin. Can you hear me? Thank you for giving us the opportunity to present our SOI. It's at a very high level. Do you want to move the... So for the next financial year, we're planning to welcome about 575,000 visitors across our 6 sites. It would be higher, but City Gallery is not opening till the second quarter. We're expecting to get 90,000 visitors to the Cornelia Parker exhibition, and I'd just like to acknowledge Wellington NZ and the help that they've provided us with in making this happen. It's been really significant, but also many other organisations, including our foundation and sponsors. We also want to achieve an average of at least 87% approval rating, and with that we're actually going to change the way in which we measure approval, because it's very long and cumbersome at the moment and we get very few responses. So we're just looking at that as part of our longer term strategy in terms of delivery and delivering high impact exhibitions. So in terms of our opportunities, we've got a new strategic plan that we're implementing next financial year, and there are 4 areas that we're targeting. The first is on high impact delivery for Wellington's people and its visitors. So driving cultural vibrancy is ensuring that our exhibitions are of high quality and connection and support the cultural vibrancy of our city, and that's really ensuring that we're amplifying that we're the creative capital of New Zealand, Aotearoa. We're also reopening the City Gallery, and by providing large international exhibitions, we are delivering something unique and of high impact both culturally and economically to the city. Our new museum, we're going to look at how we can deliver experiences that meet international standards, and they're new. They're about how you connect with people, different ways that you connect, how you tell stories, not just about the taonga or the artefacts that you present, but actually different ways of engaging. Old Capital E, we're working with Council on that at the moment, and we see that as a really new opportunity to look at how we can deliver to Tanako Square, augment the City Gallery and its exhibitions, but also look at other opportunities within the city and working with our partners to achieve something else. It might be through music, it might be through other events, but working with our Tanako colleagues, we're very close with them. We work closely with the New Zealand School of Music, with the NZSO, with Orchestra Wellington, with the National Music Centre, and of course with the library, because our offices are now in the library, and we've got Capital E in the library too. So Tanako is becoming very important to us as a place and a place to leverage from to support Wellington's cultural vibrancy. And of course that is part of the activation of Tanako Square. So our focus is on cultural and economic impact. The next strategic outcome is about our partnerships. Now those are the ones that we have, and we want to continue to build on those, because obviously if we work together then it's better for the city and better for all the organisations. I think we've demonstrated that through our relationships while City Gallery's been closed, with the National Library, the Daos Te Papa, and on it goes. But we want to look more out to business now and augment the list that you see in front of you to see how we can actually look at working with businesses and other sorts of partnerships. We've found with the Cornelia exhibition, I may have already mentioned this, we have had real opportunities open up to us and all sorts of interesting opportunities, and it's been the easiest sort of event at the moment to get sponsorship for, and it's been of high level sponsorship. So that tells us anecdotally that businesses want to get behind something that's positive for Wellington, and I think we see that again at the opening of Te Matapihi. There were 20,000 people there. You know, people want things to happen in the city and they want to get behind it, and businesses want to be associated with it. Our next one is good return on investment. And that's not just about economic investment, that's about cultural investment and education, how we deliver those and how we measure those. So we're actually currently working on some tools. Economic is more easy to measure, but we're looking at some tools at the moment to how we measure our impact culturally and how we measure it educationally. And I think that's really important if we're going out and telling our story to, businesses throughout the region and other partners and potential partners. And then finally, strong brand presence. And this is ensuring, next one, sorry. This is ensuring that we're well known and recognised not just locally and not just nationally, but internationally for the events that we put on, particularly with things like City Gallery in the international space where we are marketing to the Australian market, but looking further to that. But ensuring each of our sites have their own brand too, and it's working how we use the individual brands collectively as well, because there's a different audience segments, and some of those segments it makes sense to make them more aware of all our sites, and others you just want them to know the site that they connect with. And so it's looking more closely at how we can do that. Our challenges. So obviously our Ministry of Education contract is a challenge because we don't know what the new policy is or the direction. They extended it for a year. Nobody at the Ministry can give us much information about that, so we just have to sit and wait and find out. And then we're currently working out what we can do if we don't get that contract renewed, but it currently funds a range of activities that are aligned with the curriculum throughout all our sites. Reduction in cruise ship visitation is an ongoing issue. I'd just like to, though, acknowledge Alicia's work, because we have not dropped in our retail income, even though we've dropped in our visitation income this year, and that is thanks to the commercial strategies adopted by her team. So I think she's done a remarkable job in that area. So. Obviously the future of the Bond store, which is an ongoing discussion, and what that means for the Wellington Museum. And of course now increased freight costs are obviously an issue with us with the situation in Iran, and I'll just quickly take you through that. Obviously, Cornelia Parker is coming by air, so there's no sort of issue around the sea transportation. It's coming from 4 different areas in the world. Japan, so there are 4 different consignments. Japan, which is the biggest and most important work, we feel confident about that at that position. New York, Spain and England. So we've got lots of strategies in place. If there should be any problem with one of those consignments, we can do other things. It's a huge exhibition, so we can afford to pare it back. Also, we've got a very strong relationship with Singapore Airlines. They're a commercial sponsor, and they're actually going to help sponsor us with freight. So I'm sure that will help us in trying to get goods through. Also, during COVID, Hilma of Clint, we put that on during COVID. It was a massive exhibition, huge number of crates came through, and that was prioritised. So at this time, we've got strategies in place, but we're not concerned. We're just looking. We don't know what it's going to be like in the next 2 or 3 months, and so I think we just have to sit and wait and be prepared. So that's probably our biggest challenge at the moment, or our most immediate. Key financials, we want to raise $5.5 million in non-council revenue, doing what we're doing, but looking at other things. And that also includes like looking beyond our sites. For example, we just entered a contract with Pukeahu War Memorial Museum to deliver tours there. That's not one of our sites, but Ministry for Culture and Heritage, that's no longer in their remit, so they've contracted us to do that. And we're looking at other things we can do in that way. And also expanding our retail and continuing to see how we can develop that further. That will also help with the opening of the City Gallery, where we've expanded the retail space and looking at different things that we can deliver to that space. Our non-council revenue target is 30%, which is quite a decrease from this year. And our net surplus we're projecting is $131,000. That's after depreciation. A bit lower the following year, and then an increase to a similar level in the final year. And with City Gallery reopening, we'll continue to charge for major international exhibitions, and we're also going to implement international charges like we have at the museum, which has been successful all year round, just for international visitors. With our refreshed venues, which we've had many challenges around them, and it's great to be able to get back into 2 of them. And the activity around Tanako, we're actually feeling positive about the future. So thank you.
Great, thank you very much. I have a question first. You were talking about, in your earlier slide, you talked about a large percentage of your visitors were children. Do they all come under the Ministry of Education contract?
So about 14,000 of our visitors are children that come in under that contract. That's the one that we measure, because that's the one we can measure properly. And so that's not all our visitors, no. That's just the ones that we measure through that contract.
Okay. When you said that there was a risk to it being renewed, is that a real risk, or have you actually had any feedback about it, or what they think about it, or where we're going?
It is a real risk because they'd previously let go of some contracts. They are not giving any feedback, so we don't know. That's part of the problem. We've spoken to other colleagues and other venues or organisations that do similar work to us, and that they all don't have any idea either.
Can I add, just to clarify, I don't think it's a performance-related issue. It's about government priorities for where Ministry of Education funding is invested. So that's what will drive that decision rather than a concern about performance.
Yeah. Thank you.
Excellent. Is there anything we can do to actually help with that?
That's a really good question. Can I go away and think about that and get back to you? Because that might be a really helpful idea, actually.
Sure. That's great. Thank you. No, thank you very much for. We have 3 questions. Deputy Mayor McNulty.
Yeah, just for the Wellington Museum, just wanting to confirm my understanding is still right. So the Chris Penk earthquake prone building review hasn't essentially gotten us out of the liability there. So it's $60 million if we want to stay in that venue, roughly, in strengthening costs.
What the property team have told me is they estimate it's between 60 and 90 million, even though it's already on base isolators.
And we've got, Andrew's not here, is it 20 million budgeted in for strengthening?
Yes.
Okay, so if we stay in the bond store, we need to find anywhere between 40 to $90 million to strengthen that building.
Yep.
That sounds like a really stupid decision to stay in there then. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Next we have Councillor Ruiti, thank you.
Thank you. Similar to my question to Wellington NZ, are you aware of the stadium's associate director, and are you thinking of something similar?
The answer is yes. Can I just add, we now have, as one of the board members, Mania Sweeney, as a full board member, council appointed last year. Mania started as an emerging director through the Institute of Directors. So I'm very keen that we continue, having growing directors through that sort of process. So very, very supportive, and the board has discussed this, and we agreed we would look again later in the year at how we might bring on someone through the Stadiums Initiative.
Great, thank you. Councillor Osborne.
Thank you. Looking through the various venues that you have, there's one that's obviously sticks out a bit like a sore thumb, that'd be the Nairn Street Cottage. I just wonder if you might be able to talk us through the value of maintaining that as a venue, and whether it could potentially be repurposed or used for something else.
Yes, this has been an ongoing question. I do see it personally of value because it is part of our history and our heritage, and that's what we do. Our visitation has dropped significantly since we stopped taking school groups through there. So we used to get large visitation as a result of that. COVID changed that, and things have, time has changed that, and that happened before I started. We are looking at initiatives. We're having an artist response. We put out a call for an artist response to that to try and get new audience up there, so an art installation, because what we're doing is obviously not creating new audience, so we're currently looking at that. Did you want to add anything to that?
We've also invested some time to bring that site, the visitor centre, available for venues. So it's a great little space for revenue in our off-season for away days. And yeah, I think the stark difference is that we no longer get learning groups there, so visitation has appeared to drop. But we're probably going to be up about 15% on last year at this point, so yeah.
That's not a lot, I know, when you're looking at real numbers, but we are looking at doing things quite differently to actually create an impact because, hence this artist response, some other ideas we've got around Halloween and all that sort of things.
I think one of the challenges, in a sense, is linked to the conversation about the future of a museum, which is how we use these facilities to tell our stories, both of, pre- and post-colonial kind of settlement in this area, and the role that the cottage can play in helping tell those stories.
Great, thank you. I have one last question regarding the bond store. Now, if we were going to proceed with strengthening it, what would we do? Is there a plan to, say, move the exhibits out of there while this work is going on? And would that remain open if we took it to another venue, such as Takina?
You mean if it was strengthened and we had to move permanently or
Yes.
temporarily?
Temporarily. Well, both options, actually.
Well, it would be different. We haven't really looked into, we'd have to decant, which is take it all out and put it in our collection store, and it's a very lengthy process. It's quite a significant process. But we have a big collection, it's not just everything that's there. We have a store where we keep it. We have 2 stores where we keep it. So, yes, we would have to decant, and that's expensive, and then we'd have to move back, and it would probably cost us quite a lot to also re-exhibit and do new exhibits in the bond store because of the shape and the awkwardness of the building. So it would be more challenging than a fit-for-purpose building would be.
Great, that's good, thank you. Sorry, Councillor Foon now.
Thank you, Chair. Kia ora, and thank you for today and for your SOI. Just wanted a query around Ahotine and the alignment with that arts and culture creative strategy. How do you find, are you working closely with our creative capital team, and do you find that alignment is working well for you? And
Yeah, we have a kaihotu who we appointed about 18 months ago, Tame Mahuta Gray, and he works very closely with the council.
Awesome.
And actually was quite key in the opening of Te Matapihi.
Yeah.
He led that in many ways. He's been working with the council to work with staff on the tikanga around that, and so yes, I'd say we have a very good and supportive relationship, and that's building constantly.
Yeah, great. So any other ways you think you could strengthen the alignment with that strategy?
Can I go back and talk to Tane Mahuta about that and come back to you on that?
Yeah, thank you.
Great. If there are no more questions, thank you very much, Martin, Diana, and Alicia. Much appreciated. We'll take a 5-minute break now for refreshing your tea or coffee and any comfort stops. So please come back at
2:45.
2:45. Great. get back to your seats again. Next we have Wellington Zoo, we have Karen, and we have Jamie online. Thanks, Karen. Welcome again.
Thank you, Chair. Kia ora, everybody. I think Jamie's going to speak first. He's up there on the screen, I can see.
Pai. Okay. Well, kia ora tātou. E mihi ana ki a tātou I tēnei rā. E tangi ana ki o tātou mate. Apologies, I can't be there in person. I attended a service for a friend's sort of mother today, so glad I can join online. I thought before Karen gets into some of the detail of the summary presentation, I'd just sort of provide some context and a bit of scene setting. As you know, Te Nuku Wellington Zoo serves Wellington both as one of our major visitor attractions, but also as one of our key institutions, with a global reputation. And, this year we celebrate our 120th birthday next month. And I acknowledge sort of Mayor Little, who visited the zoo yesterday in preparation for this year's celebrations. But the 120th is a once-in-a-generation opportunity for us to reintroduce the zoo to the city, deepen our connection and relationship with Wellingtonians, and ideally leverage the profile of what we have to offer at the zoo for fundraising, partnerships, and, of course, tourism. In terms of the statement of intent this year, this is really, sort of how we're going to respond and navigate to the real challenges that we face. And many of the challenges we face at the zoo are not unfamiliar to a number of the other CCOs, but we have rising costs, aging infrastructure, a funding model where we as a trust raise 58% of the operational funding, but we don't own the core assets, as you know, to invest in. And so, this statement of intent is really about how we are going to respond to those pressures while protecting animal welfare, maintaining accessibility, Wellington families, and then setting the zoo up strongly, ideally for the next 120 years. And so, it's amazing we can celebrate 120 years. I also want to acknowledge Karen. It's 20 years of service for the zoo. Not only the zoo being an institution, but I think sort of Karen herself has become a key institution for us in Wellington. So you're not old, Karen. So on that note, I'm going to hand over to Karen to work through a bit of the detail around some of the challenges and opportunities. And as you'll see in the SOI, we are facing a deficit for the year ahead, but I'll let Karen speak to some of the detail.
Kia ora, thanks, Jamie. So I wanted to talk a little bit about the opportunities before talked about the challenges, because the challenges are pretty self-explanatory when I get there. Obviously in the SOI we've gone through how we are aligned to the council's strategies, and I think we make a huge effort to make sure we're doing the right things for the city. So some of the opportunities we see, though, in terms of what's coming next for the zoo is really looking at our operational fundraising and partnership opportunities. We had a soiree last week where we did a joint fundraiser with Ronald McDonald House, because they're one of our community partners. So looking at different ways of looking at fundraising and partnership. And a few of the CCOs have talked today about how we work together, and big shout out to the cable car and also Wellington NZ and City Council around our 120th birthday. It's been incredible support for that. So looking at those opportunities as we go forward, it's really important for us in terms of working together across the city. So that's an incredible opportunity. Obviously, tourism and venues is important for us, as it is for a lot of the CCOs. That's going to be very interesting. One of the impacts, I think, with the fuel shock is going to be whether people are prepared to jump in their car and go and visit different organisations. That's going to be one impact, I think. But we've got a really fantastic manager of this space, and already he's doubled our venues money that we got a year ago. So there's opportunities there that we're really pushing as much as we can. Jamie's mentioned the funding model, and in the statement of intent we've been pretty clear about what that looks like in terms of the funding model, and also it came out of the CCO review as well for all of the CCOs, that we're actually working as hard as we can to get value out of the assets that we've got, but there's only so much you can cut before you start to impact on the services. And as Diana always says to me when we talk about funding, she says, you can't really mothball a giraffe, Karen. So no, it's a little difficult to do that. So looking at that funding model, it's obviously going to be something important for us to look at into the future, and the shared services model. We're very lucky at Te Nukuʻau. We work very closely with council in terms of shared services, and we're very happy with those shared services and how they add value for us and actually help us to deliver things that we wouldn't be able to afford to deliver. I want to mention the master plan and also the renewals projects, because starting with the renewals projects, we can actually make huge differences for not much money. So that makes incredible change to the asset itself. So, for example, the penguin habitat that most of you have seen, what we did with the otters a year ago. So those things cost between 200 and 300,000. So they're not mega millions, but they make a huge difference to what people are seeing when they come and visit the zoo. So they're getting a sense of renewal when they come to the zoo, because we know through a whole lot of research worldwide that that's what people look for when they visit their zoo. They want to see renewal, they want to see the assets well cared for, they want to think the animals are well cared for. So all of those things are important. The master plan, we have the Lion project in the next LTP, so it's 5 years out now. But that's a really important project, because if we move the lions, then we can have other revenue raising opportunities such as glamping. And we can't do that at the moment unless we move the lions. So the master plan actually takes into consideration using the site better in terms of its gradients and where we put the animals, but also making sure we've got commercial outcomes for the site as well. And I've mentioned the conservation projects already in previous meetings, but I just want to say that we got 2 more speckled skinks arrive at the zoo this week. Johnny, I know you asked me that about Doc last time we were here. So we got 2, so that means we've now pretty much doubled the population in terms of what animals we've got. So I think we've got 7 now. So that's all very interesting. The Whitakers are really important as well, but that conservation outcome is one of our true remits for Te Nukuʻau. And then we get to the challenges. What a lovely slide. All you can see is dollar signs, except for climate change, which is also linked to dollars in a lot of ways. It's pretty clear in our SOI, the way we've framed it, that money is the challenge. In terms of discretionary spend, the economy as it's progressing, the fuel shocks now, the high cost of utilities, it's not going to do any good for our power and our water. And the problem with one of the offshoots of the fuel shock is food supply. So we get food supply shock in terms of bringing food in, but we also have a lot of issues with food supply in terms of what happens in New Zealand with our climate as well. So when things get wiped out with climate change events, then that affects our food supply as well. So there's a lot of challenges around the money and around the operational funding and how to be a sustainable organisation. But the one I wanted to draw attention to really is remuneration. It's really fascinating to me, and it hasn't changed in 20 years. When we have our jobs sized through strategic pay, but every time we go out to replace somebody, we're about $20,000 below market. So there's always this remuneration pressure on what we're paying our people. We haven't increased our staff numbers at all. We're at, I think, 1 position since COVID. So we run a tight ship in terms of how many staff members we have, but the REM pressures are really starting to bite again. We talked about this at the board meeting last week. So, for example, zookeepers, I've just lost 4 of them to Australia. And the thing is, they're not inexperienced people, these are the experienced people. So they're getting jobs in Australian zoos that are paying them 30% more than what we pay. So what we're doing is training all the young ones, and then we're losing them somewhere else. And a lot of the driver is because they're young, a lot of it's about their money, because they're trying to set up their lives and buy a house and do all those things. So REM is incredible pressure on us. We're just going out for a couple of positions at the moment, and we've got that job size between 70 and 85, and people I'm talking to are expecting 110. So it's really a huge pressure on our finances in terms of replacing people. Very little space for us to move in terms of not recruiting, because, as I said, we run a lean ship anyway. And so where do you start? And then you start to see problems in terms of the service that you're delivering. So, and the other thing is, in terms of the business model, because we don't own the asset, as Jamie said, we actually have no way of investing. we have to rely on council's investment strategies in terms of what's invested in the zoo. So it makes it difficult for us to sort of do something like glamping because it's linked to what council's strategy is about. Totally understand that because there's other things that council has to decide upon, but it does hamstring us a little bit. And lastly, I just want to talk about the climate change impact. As I've said before, we've never closed a zoo in 120 years, and the last year we've closed it 3 times because of weather events. So that has huge impacts on the asset, on visitation, on a whole range of things. So I do want to just quickly go through looking at our operating budget, and you'll see that we're flagging in the draft budget have another operating deficit for next year, around 750K. We've gone through line by line trying to find this money. Last year we had quite an aggressive budget looking at commercial products, and while we increased those commercial outcomes by a huge amount from the year before, we still didn't reach the target. So while we're really pushing the asset and trying to get as much skin out of it we can, blood out of a stone basically, our costs are increasing. And we're trying to match that with our commercial outcome, and it's not quite making the grade. So the bad news for us, aside from all the good news that we've got, is that we are still going to have an operating deficit for the next 12 months at least. But a good news story, we've got a baby chimp on the way, so that'll be nice. So yeah, I'd like to end with a nice story. I don't know if you want to say any more, Jamie?
No, I think, from the board perspective, I think operationally what we control are our costs, and we've been, as Karen said, line by line to ensure that, we're as prudent as possible. I think, as we've actually grown commercial revenue, the challenge is that the costs of food, water and everything else have outpaced the sort of commercial gains that we've made. So that's the sort of challenge. But yeah, we are where we are. We're hoping that with the 120th that, we can build some momentum, acknowledging the other CCOs and all of those partners, because we're going to use this as an opportunity and a platform to try and increase visitation, but also our engagement with the wider community when we think about third-party revenue and fundraising as well.
Yeah. Just interesting, just to finish, sorry, Ray, we had a surplus year, we had the snow leopards. So it shows you that investment in the asset does drive visitation. So it's all connected, really. Sorry.
Great, thanks, Jamie and Karen. Always appreciate you coming in. Karen, I have a question for you regarding the glamping, and we've talked about this before. Are you saying that the glamping would need to go at where the lion enclosure is at present?
Pretty much, yeah.
And so there's no other place in the zoo that it could actually fit in?
To actually put in the investment to do a glamping option, you would have to have it set up properly, because then you'd have to move it again. So really that's the spot in terms of the master plan and how it's set out. That's between the lions and the giraffes, so that's the best place for it to be. Yeah. So there's not anywhere at the moment.
Okay, that's good. So what's the implication on where the lions are now? So is it possible to relocate them or to keep them there while this glamping is happening, or is it possible, or would they need to be moved into another area?
They have to move to the other side of the zoo for us
That
to
would be
free up
called
that
adventure
space.
tourism, I think, Ray.
Yeah, okay, yeah. Right.
Thank you for that, Andrew.
Right.
Not really the sort we'd like.
Okay, thanks.
And also, moving the lions means we can get more. So we've got 2 males at the moment, so we'd get more lions as well. Yeah.
Great, thank you. We'll discuss that further. We have a couple of questions here. Deputy Mayor McNulty.
Thanks, Karen, for the work you've done in turning around the zoo. It really is a fantastic asset to the city now. The thing that makes me incredibly nervous is we're preparing for a rates capping environment in an LTP. This year we've sort of found about 10 mil of cuts for the annual plan. If we were complying with the upper end of that spectrum, it needed to be 27.5. So I'm incredibly nervous with the picture that you're showing of us and the ability of this council to do anything to help you fill that 750k deficit, because frankly we're going to all our internal business, we're going to have to go to our internal business units and ask the same. So something like glamping, where does that sit in terms of filling the revenue hole? When I'm trying to basically get to, is there things we can do in debt in exchange for OPEX? So if we were to authorise some work so that that does mean you can then have the facilities to get yourselves to a revenue neutral point.
I think they're all interesting conversations to have in terms of that. I don't think we've really explored that sort of option yet. We have thought about when we build the business case for that, we want to look at a public-private partnership in terms of glamping. It has worked overseas in terms of that, so sometimes it doesn't work, so you've got to be careful who you sort of partner with. So we'd have to do that business case and look at whether we could have some sort of debt repayment type thing. So, for example, Chester Zoo just borrowed £54 million to build their glamping facility, so they can pay that back. You know, Taronga can borrow money and pay it back. We just don't have that facility at the moment. Yeah.
Yeah, and I guess Jamie as well, we're really interested, I'll speak on behalf of councillors, in ways that we can help you in ways that aren't a direct funding injection, because that is going to be so constrained. So if there is creative thinking around how we can develop instruments or lines of credit to get you guys to that revenue neutral point of view, we certainly are open to that discussion.
Yeah, I think it's quite a good conversation to have, particularly when you can see from our history, whenever we've done this for the board, looked at where do we have capital investment and what does that do to visitation. It's pretty clear. So it shows that it's a positive. Yeah.
All right, next we have a question from Councillor Rogers.
Yeah, and a similar sort of question. I was interested when you said around the zoo owning the assets would be beneficial. I was just wondering in terms of going forward, when you were looking at doing some of those rearrangements or the glamping processes, where you would look at accessing that capital from, whether you would still look to draw down capital grants like the Cable Car has just done for some of their work, or whether you would go to private debt facilities.
Yeah, again, we have not explored that. And at the moment, if we were to take the asset on, we couldn't afford it. We just wouldn't have the money to be able to do that. So it'd still be an iterative process about how we get there over time. Yeah.
Cool. Thank you.
Great, thanks. One more question on glamping. Are there any other zoos in New Zealand or Australia that actually have glamping facilities?
Well, funny you should say that. In Australia, yes. Zoos South Australia does, Zoos Victoria does, and Taronga does, and Canberra National Zoo does. So quite a few options. So when I say Taronga, I mean Dubbo as well. So they all have options in terms of glamping. In fact, Dubbo was really interesting. They changed their whole business model around it because they found that day visitors spent about $70 going to the zoo. Overnight visitors spend 4 times that. So they actually changed the way they actually look at their visitation. So. And overseas, there's plenty of examples as well. Singapore's just done a whole lot of work with accommodation in different guises. And the same with Taronga, they have 3 different options for accommodation. So, yes, there's a lot of examples around the world. Within New Zealand, I've been going on about this for years. My team is sick of me talking about it. But what Hamilton City has done is they've bought properties around the zoo that have houses on them that are going to be setting them up as accommodation. So they've done that as a buffer zone around Hamilton Zoo because the city's spreading out towards the zoo, so they wanted to protect that. So they bought about 4 or 5 properties, I think, and then the houses that are on those are going to be changed into accommodation, and they're also looking at doing glamping onto the waterhole for their master plan. So yeah, so they'll have those accommodation experiences in place probably by the end of next year.
Mm-hmm. Do you think that, or do you see that as being an opportunity or even feasible for Wellington? Like, how close are the properties around the zoo to be able to be used for those?
No, and we just couldn't afford it, Ray. I mean, the properties around the zoo are, a couple of $1 million. So there's no way we could do that. And also, we're on the town belt, so it makes it quite difficult as well. So it's a different model.
There's no way of expanding into the town belt, or do you think that that'll be too problematic?
Yeah, no, that's There's a whole lot of strictures around the town belt, around commercial operations and things like that. So we've been there 120 years, you know, so that makes it easier for us to be there. But there's a lot of changes around how the town belt's used. Yeah.
Great, thank you. We have a question now from Councillor Foon.
And Karen, apologies, but just while we're on the glamping and the business case, can you just remind us what that amount was when it came out of the LTP last year?
Oh, it was 1 million, 1.5, I think. Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
So 1.5?
Yeah.
Yeah, for the business case. Thank you.
Yeah, business case and planning. So it was two things. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Are there any more questions? No?
No, it's not a question. If the chair can limit a question number to himself.
Yeah. Okay. Great. I'd like to thank you very much, Karen, for coming in and looking forward to your farewell. A very sad event, but.
And I just want to say thank you very much for all the support that I've received over the time, and also for Te Nukuau as well. So I really do appreciate it. So thank you.
Thank you, and thank you, Jamie.
Thank you, Jamie.
Kia ora koutou.
Just Danielle now. Just Danielle.
Oh, yep. Okay, now we have Zealandia and we have Danielle here. Welcome, Danielle.
Kia ora, everybody, and apologies from Russell. He had something come up quite shortly before this, but here, certainly in spirit. Our governance is quite phenomenal at the moment. We've got an exceptional skills-based board. They are in good stead. We have excellent representation across the full suite of skills that we need to operate our place. So there's a little message from our governance. But in talking to you today, I just want to anchor us in our long-term vision. It's very easy to get embroiled in 3-year cycles, but here at Zealandia, we do have a very ambitious goal of restoring nature. So this starts for us looking at the sanctuary itself. So imagine a valley just 2 kilometres from the CBD. It's clothed in vigorously regenerating hardwood forests, and like the forests of old, it rings with the coughs of the tui, the chimes of the korimako, and at night you can hear the haunting cry of the ruru. So we're 25 years in, and we've got 475 years left to reach that goal, but we're well along the way. So this, at our core, so we are about restoration first and foremost, but our team have been working on trying to understand more fully our role in creating a nature-rich capital. So imagine a city filled with birdsong. Imagine walking down Courtenay Place and you look up and you see the trees blooming, you see these trees full of tui, full of kaka, all arguing, enough food for everybody. You keep walking, you see a stream, it's got clear running water, it's healthy, there's kids playing in it. We've renamed Courtenay Place even to Kaka Close, perhaps. Imagine our city 500 years from now, what that could be, what that could look like. So for Zealandia, we see our role in achieving that as being collaborative, being knowledge generators for our city, for our country, but also it's about inspiring. So it's about working closely with our community and understanding where we're trying to get to. From an international perspective, we have a role as well. We saw that recently with the influence on Hawaii. I'll come back to that a little. But imagine cities across the world, they're teeming with their own biodiversity. Cities, communities have been inspired about what we've done here in Wellington, and they've created change for themselves. So we see our place, Zealandia's place in achieving this, is about knowledge generation again, about influence and providing the inspiration that things can be different. So that sets the scene for our SOI. 500 years is a long time to plan for, so the way we organise it, if you haven't heard this before, is we break it down into generational strategies. Our first generation strategy was all about inside the fence, restoring the sanctuary. Our second generation strategy is called Living with Nature, Te Aki Taua. So the purpose behind that is we connect people with our unique natural heritage and inspire actions to transform how people live with nature in towns, cities and beyond. So, Like setting a little context, over the last year, we continue to grow our impact. I've got this incredible, visual of the spread of tui. Many of you have seen this before. Just 25 years, together we've reversed that loss of tui from our skies. But for us, we've had heavy investment in our engagement. So our social influence and impact, for example, has increased again in the last year, up to just beyond 121,000 followers across platforms. I'm sorry to say I checked out the WCC Instagram followings in Zealandia's. We're a little ahead, I've got to say, so you know. But in saying that, we are a key way of sharing messages about our city. Sharing messages about the change that our city is creating for the world. So that continues to be a really important platform for us for connecting with the wider audience. Just mention that international impact. So we've got in sanctuary, we've got citywide impact, and then we've got that international impact. We are attracting around 136,000 visitors a year. That has stabilised somewhat. But around 6,000 of them are learners, young learners. We have 15,500 members. So that's a considerable number, mostly Wellingtonians, but we do have that spread across the world as well. And of course, we are seeing significant impacts of that international influence. So for example, Hawaii writing Zealandia into that bill that I mentioned the last time I talked to you guys. So yeah, so that sets our scene. These are themes that continue into our next SOI. So it's about knowledge generation, influence for impact, and restoration. So they are our key pillars. Oh, the slides are doing beautiful things for you, keeping me on my toes and surprised, which is always a good thing, isn't it? So it is quite wonderful that we naturally and very easily align with council strategy and priorities. So looking across your key domains, our priority areas are environmental, cultural and social wellbeing. So of course, from an environmental perspective, we are all about restoration, significant collaboration with our predator-free Wellington, capital Kiwi colleagues, and of course mana whenua. Cultural wellbeing, mana whenua sits side by side with us in key projects. So for example, Kia Mauri Ora Te Kaiwharawhara. So that project focuses on restoring the life force of the Kaiwharawhara. And they actively collaborate through a lot of our restoration work. Social wellbeing, again, I mentioned our learning program. So we actually managed to attract quite significant philanthropic investment into our learning program recently, and that allows us to keep deepening that impact. Don't necessarily go for bigger numbers, but you go for increasing accessibility across our communities to come to Zealandia and experience what we have to offer. So yeah, secondary, but achieving, I've written there. Economic wellbeing, a report out of Predator Free Wellington recently noted for every $1 invested there, $1.70 comes back to our community. I'd say for Zealandia, that number would probably even be a bit higher. And urban form, secondary but achieving. In fact, we have active research coming out of our organisation as well. It's funded by various places. And so, for example, we are contributing to knowledge advancement on how we create cities that embrace nature. So, Tū Piki Ora Tākai Here, very much in line with how we conduct our work at Zealandia. Our ambition and goal is to be the best possible Te Tiriti o Waitangi partners we can be. Flagship projects there, co-developing our freshwater priorities with mana whenua, progressing priority projects such as that Kia Mauri Ora Te Kaiwharawhara work, and scaling our internal capability and capacity. So certainly well aligned there. There are a couple of specific expectations in our statement of expectation. One of these is about our fence. So the fence is actually in really good shape right now, but we do have signs that we are going to start to need to replace sections and replace elements of that. So we've been planning in earnest, we've been fundraising, and we have a really great partner, international engineering firm GHD, that's offered both pro bono and at cost work to help us progress this project. So we're pretty able to generate our own funding when we've got a little backing along the way, and that is marked in the long-term plan for some support in coming years. So that's going well. And another specific expectation in there is about storytelling. It's about telling the story of increase of nature across Wellington. I'd say we do that in spades. It's very much part of our own ethos. I've told you about our visions for Wellington, our visions for other cities. So fundamentally, engagement and inspiring people is part of that. So we wrap core investments within our organisations around those outcomes. Cool, so just to give you a few numbers and context, so we've got some quite good highly targeted KPIs around those goals of restoration, knowledge generation, influence and impact. Financially, it's a difficult environment to be making projections and forecasts in at the moment. So the numbers we've got here, we continue to tweak. Our current goal is basically just better than on the nose before depreciation is accounted for. So our depreciation has gone up. We've had significant investment in our, for example, we've got the 2 new shuttles, we've got a new ute, we've got a new building. Those things have been necessary investments, but it means we are carrying higher depreciation and we aren't able to meet that full amount yet. But to be honest, that is always our goal. Break even after depreciation, but what you're seeing here is better than break even before depreciation. Poking around in the numbers a bit more, you'll see in our cash drops next year. This is as we start to look at investing in our fence and other key pieces of infrastructure. Contributions from council come into our OPEX lines, but they come out of our cash line, of course, as well. So we aim to remain resilient. We are developing a 10-year financial strategy at the moment. Again, trying to make predictions in this environment is difficult, but that is how we remain resilient, is actually looking forward. We acknowledge that at some point we think, we know we will have a cap on how many people can visit the sanctuary before you actually start to undermine the sanctuary itself. So how you raise funds in that environment when you have a cap, that's something that we're thinking about fundamentally. What does our digital strategy look like? What does our going deep, going local strategy look like? So that's all core to how we're thinking at the moment. So anyway, the last things to mention, of course, are the operating context that's challenging all of us right now. How do we care for our people in this uncertain environment? Looking at these numbers, living wage continues to it's incredibly important that we pay living wage, but each year we do end up with unexpected costs jumping on our back a little bit. So they always seem to be high. A living wage seems to be increasing at a higher rate than, say, what council is predicting. We are bearing those costs ourselves, and it does get increasingly challenging. So just put that to you. So I think that summarises it. We have lots of opportunities. I mentioned go local, go deep. Our memberships continue to be an amazing opportunity for us. They're inexpensive, they make the place accessible. Functions, we've invested in our functions venues, and of course philanthropy. As our global reputation grows, I am seeing increasing interest from people in Aotearoa, New Zealand, and I'm hoping to tap into wider international markets as well. So I'll leave you there.
Great, thank you very much. Daniel, I'd just like to ask you, you would have listened to Karen talking about glamping at the zoo earlier. Do you think that's an opportunity for Zealandia to actually have organised I guess, accommodation overnight at Zealandia?
Yeah, prior to my time as a CEO, it was investigated for Zealandia, and the business case at that time didn't stack up. I think we'd need to look very carefully at what the upfront investment would look like and what the return would be as well. But look, I think we're open to exploring all opportunities, and that could be one very much that we look at in the future.
Okay. That'd be great. Perhaps we can have a conversation on that. And I understand, of course, that you need to understand the costs of actually running that. So it would need to stack up.
Yeah.
Great, thank you. Do we have any questions? Sorry. Councillor Ruiti. Sorry, I missed you there.
Thank you, Chair. Daniel, you mentioned here on this last slide, which I can see, fuel crisis impact on tourism. In other ways, are you affected by the rising price of fuel in other ways? You mentioned that you have 2 new vehicles or 4 new vehicles, and I guess there's also costs with like lawn mowing and things like that. How does the increase in fuel costs affect?
Yeah, great question. So fortunately, most of our fleet is electric. We also equip with quite a few solar panels, so it does keep our costs down in a range of ways. I think we're all expecting to see flow-on effects for costs of goods, all costs of goods. We're running a cafe and so on. So yeah, it will be interesting to see where that maps out, and I'm certainly keeping an eye.
So I take it that a new fence you would require bringing materials in?
100%, yep, we'd need to bring materials in. We need to replace, for example, fence mesh panels. One of our goals would be to make Zealandia mouse-free. That's the only introduced mammal we have there at the moment. So yeah, I would expect at some point we'll see the costs of those sorts of things rising. Yeah.
All right, there are no more questions, but I'd just like to ask you about the fencing again. So when you start installing new fencing, how different is that from the current fencing that we're actually using? Like, has that actually changed in the design or the materials or way that you're doing it?
Great question, Ray. I'd love to show you in person, actually. But no, there are some design changes. So, for example, over 30 years, the types of metals and coatings, for example, on the products that we use will have shifted. The types of fence posts, how deep down they go, those are the sorts of things. Basically, what we've done is we've looked at how the fence has fared so far, what's worked well, what could be improved, and the design that GHD's helped us with helps address those sorts of things. Mm-hmm. The main ecological thing, which is really important for us, of course, is actually getting mouse-free. That goal would help us stay ahead of the curve in terms of actually that conservation impact and what we're contributing to Aotearoa New Zealand.
Mm-hmm. Great, thank you. And are you, with the current fence, are we sort of mouse-free, or do you actually have mice coming in?
We have mice. It was originally designed as mouse-free, but of course we were the first fence designed for this purpose, full stop, in the world. So a lot of it was explorational at the time, but it turns out that the mesh that was used at the time was just a little bit too big for the smallest mice. Oh. So when the heat comes along, the sun shines on it, it expands, and then you get juvenile mice in. So mice were eradicated originally, but they reinvaded within 2 years of that fence going up. Mm-hmm. So each year we keep the numbers down, but I think it would be really fabulous for biodiversity if we managed to make that completely mouse-free.
Great. Thank you very much, and thanks again for coming in. Always appreciate it. Thanks.
Pleasure. Thank you, guys. Turn the speaker off for that one, eh?
Thank you, and now we have Warwick and Owen from Henry Stadium. First time I've actually used that name, so welcome.
Sure, use it all the time, Councillor. We're just sitting back there plotting our plan for tents around the peripheral for the next test match, Ray. I think we get about 20 or 30, I think. On the cockpit. That's probably a little cosy. Hey, look, kia ora, and thanks for having us here. Again, nice to be sitting here basking in the glow of Henry Stadium. We are still obviously pretty proud of that. And I guess I'd probably also like to start by congratulating our team internally, because it's been a hell of a lot of work. You know, the easy work almost is inking the deal. There's therefore then weeks and months of changing over signage and everything else that goes with it. So our team have worked incredibly hard. We've a couple of events under our new name. I won't make too many comments, but I guess it's important that we do bask in the glow of that and some of the stuff coming up, because we all know there's been quite a lot of press about a couple of other stadium around the country. So we just keep on with our journey of being the New Zealand's most loved venue, and I think it's really, really important. And I think part of it is also to continue to anchor back in we are a community asset. And whilst we're all enjoying the recent T20s, the Hurricanes doing fabulously well, and hopefully the Phoenix finishing the season strongly, if that's the best way we can do it. Also, last weekend we hosted the Eid celebrations at the end of Ramadan. We've got the thanks councillor always coming along and supporting. Yeah, fantastic. Also Armageddon coming up, and also the Cancer Society Relay for Life. And I think that just demonstrates in a little venue like us how much of an asset we are and the variety of events we come up, which is obviously core to our letter of intent. So look, I'll let Warwick run through the rest of our presentation.
Yeah. I've managed to kill the presentation. That's good, isn't it? Kia ora and good to see everybody. No, the letter of expectation from the two councils this year is very similar to previous years, and that's reflected in our statement of intent, which is very similar. So we will run through it very quickly. I will just highlight our strategic framework, which will continue to guide our plans over the next 3-year period. We're really driven by that purpose to provide unforgettable experiences that connect our communities. And I think that community bit remains really important to us, as Owen said. At our very heart, we are a community asset, and we're here for the people and to deliver to the people, deliver social and economic outcomes for the city and the region. We also believe and strongly believe that the stadium is a strategic asset for the city and the region. It's delivered over 26 years of proven social and economic benefit, and the challenge for us is to make sure that we continue to do that through hosting large-scale events. Just running through the specific expectations, and as I said, they're very similar to previous years. The first one is around a medium to long-term future of the stadium. We recognise the need to deliver high-quality and contemporary facilities to deliver the best experience possible for both our partners, our event partners, but also customers that come in, both now and as those requirements evolve in the future. Our strategic plan through to 2030, it really identified the need to maintain and develop our asset, to make sure that we do deliver on that customer experience. And that's, as Owen said, there's a new stadium coming on in Christchurch, there's other venues in New Zealand where we can where we believe our strength is in delivering an exceptional experience. The location of the stadium really plays into that, the connections with public transport, so we'll continue to do that. I think over the last 12 years, we've adopted a more strategic asset management plan, and that's put us in a really good stead as we start to look at these medium and long-term plans. And I guess we're coming off the back of our seismic resilience work. The funding from both Greater Wellington and Wellington City on the long-term plans has been really vital to make sure that happens, and we can finish that work. And we've got some other major capital programs coming up in terms of PA replacement, resurfacing the concourse floor, and further ahead over the next 2 to 3 years, a total resurface of the actual pitch. We're mindful that the stadium is 26 years old, so it is timely that we start to look at the long-term future of the stadium and what might need to be required for potential redevelopment or replacement of the stadium over the next 25 years. And we have highlighted in our strategic plan the need for a master plan, so we look forward to leading that work and working with both councils over the next couple of years to get that sorted. Sort of goes without saying that no, we will deliver a strong program of major events. We kind of need to. It is the lifeblood of the stadium and also the trust. We're working really closely with our home teams, the Hurricanes, the Phoenix, the Lions, who will have their own challenges, how we can actually support them better to deliver what they require. We continue to work with promoters and rights holders to try and attract one-off sporting and music events in particular, other entertainment events. Those events are still very popular. It is a very competitive market, and we'll come to that when we get to the challenges, but we still work really hard with our partners in that space. There's a couple of pinnacle events over the term of this statement of intent. So the T20 World Cup 2028, we'll be working with Cricket Wellington, Wellington NZ, the Basin Reserve Trust to put forward a bid. We believe that Wellington's really well placed to play a major part in that tournament. And the year after that is the British and Irish Lions Men's Tour in 2029. We had an expectation in there around working with the councils on the operating model review. I guess we have a rather unique position in the Regional Stadium Trust isn't technically a CCO, but we really welcome the opportunity to be a part of the CCO whānau. And we'll continue to work with Anna and the team as we go through that review process. We all work really closely with Wellington NZ. We've worked really closely with the Basin Reserve Trust in the past, and we'll continue to do that. And I mentioned the Cricket World Cup, which will be a partnership approach. And we remain really open to work with other CCOs. Quite how we do that with the zoo and Zealander, I'm not sure, but we're always open to do our bit. Well, there's the line. The field gets sprayed with something that we're not allowed livestock on, so no lions on the field. Be less lions. Our fourth expectation is actually one from the Greater Wellington Regional Council, but it does line really well with Wellington City Council's carbon neutral aspirations. We will come up with an emissions reduction plan over the next couple of years. We're just waiting for the Regional Council to update theirs so we can align with that. But we will continue our current focuses, which are around waste minimisation, energy generation and public transport. Waste minimisation with events is really important. We aim for about 80% waste minimisation. Most of our events, we are above that, which we're really proud of. Even with our seismic resilience project, we've worked really closely with Naylor Love around some reasonably innovative things that they've managed to do with recycling of carpet tiles, recycling of concrete dust, and we're about 75% of waste minimisation on that project, which we're really happy with. I think I mentioned last time we saw you that we're currently working with the Regional Council around the possibility of solar power and placing that in and around the stadium and drawing down on that ourselves, but also be able to provide back to the grid. And because of our location, public transport remains really important for us in terms of actually promoting and encouraging people to use either the bus network or the train network in and around events. As I mentioned, our operating environment is really competitive. It's competitive on a few different things. Event content, getting major event content in New Zealand at the moment is really challenging. Our exchange rate isn't very attractive. The Australian dollar seems to have strengthened against the US, the New Zealand dollar hasn't. If you look at the freight costs of getting large-scale events to New Zealand, which are only going to increase in the current environment, it adds another barrier. And even things like the taxation, so artists, withholding tax for artists in New Zealand versus Australia. Australia is a much easier option for a music promoter than New Zealand is. And then if we look at the operating environment we're in within New Zealand, obviously have a much bigger market in Auckland with Eden Park and Mount Smart being able to host concerts, and Te Kaha coming on in Christchurch. In saying that, we are working really closely with the promoters. We are still got 3 or 4 events that we're looking to have over the next 12 months, which haven't been confirmed or announced yet. So there is healthy competition, but nothing that we're not up for, and probably the message I'd like to give. I guess more locally, discretionary spend is really challenging, and I think we just heard the last 2 CCO colleagues talk about discretionary spend. For us, events are very much discretionary spend. And also, when we're doing sporting events, we're up against the competition of TV. So when people's money is tight and they already have access to an event on television, getting them into the train or onto the bus or into their car and getting them to the stadium becomes all that much more challenging. We're very aware of that. And we've seen that the Hurricanes in particular at the moment, we're working really hard with them on different initiatives, and we'll see some more rolled out over the next couple of games, how we can really encourage people to get down to the stadium. I guess for us, the one thing that doesn't get talked about very much is that we do have a commuter car park. We have noticed over the last 2 to 3 weeks a real reduction in occupancy and revenue through our commuter car parking. So that pinch around people is already happening. It's happened pretty quickly after what happened in our own. And obviously for us, that's just a financial impact directly on us. And that unfortunately leads into our ability to invest in the asset. Much like the zoo, much like Zealandia, sorry, we're probably looking at this year break even after depreciation. But it doesn't leave much to actually be able to invest. We can do our maintenance, but be able to invest above and beyond that becomes quite a challenge. There is hope, though. I don't want to leave it on a gloomy note. I don't have a pretty picture of an animal, though, Karen, but we do see real opportunity in one-off events. I think we're looking at the Anzac Day game with the Warriors. That's selling really well. We believe that will sell out. It probably should sell out in the next couple of weeks, which would be the biggest Warriors home match ever in New Zealand. So we saw it with concerts. We saw it last year with things like Hot Wheels, Monster Trucks. Those one-off events, we believe that is the way that we can still get people to come along to the as Owen said, a renewed focus around community events and exhibitions. We're looking to bring additional exhibitions in. They are really good revenue for us, but also a good usage of the stadium. So we do believe that there is opportunity, despite it maybe being a bit challenging at the moment. But happy to take any questions.
Great, thank you very much. And we have a question from Deputy Mayor McNulty.
Thank you very much. My eyes water when I look at what it costs to do a replacement stadium. You know, in Christchurch you get 2 town halls and then you still have $50 million of spending money. I know that it's not immediate right now, but if we were doing a replacement, is there things like mixed-use developments? I think of Sydney Olympic Park and how you've got hotel precincts in the vicinity of stadiums and things like that. Is there stuff like that that we might be able to get this into the realm of affordability or less horrific?
This is a closed meeting, isn't it?
It's open.
It's open, okay. My personal view, and Owen will kick me, my personal view is the best way to do any stadium or arena development is mixed use. It's a commercial property deal that has a stadium or an arena as a part of it. Because realistically, that's the only way I believe now in New Zealand and probably Australia that they can be funded. The days of local councils forking up, no, Christchurch is costing the best part of $700 million. No, we're very realistic that people don't have that money. But what can we do with land use around the stadium? If you configured it a different way, could you actually free up some land there for other usages that would help fund a stadium replacement? How can we work with the port and New Zealand Rail around some of the land use? It's much bigger than just a stadium replacement. It's actually a whole land use for that entranceway into the city.
That's like something an urban development office might tackle.
And I would just say I'm not going to kick him for that, by the way. I tend to agree. Partly I guess I'd add on because, again, as mentioned in passing, but that Franwild Walk and the car park underneath it are actually all part of the stadium precinct. So if you think from redevelopment mixed use perspective, doesn't start at the gate of the stadium. So we've got a lot more land. And if you look back 25, 27 years ago when the stadium opened, which only a few of us can, if you think down Thornton Quay now, you've actually got small boutique hotels. So the city, from that hospitality or hotel perspective, has actually moved down that end of town, which didn't exist back then. It wouldn't have even been thought about, and that land was considered wasted land. So I think all of those elements play into bigger opportunities. Now, again, whether it's a rebuild or developments around, it's probably a very, very active question. But.
Yep. And just to follow up more importantly, what are you doing to ensure the Warriors take a win over the Dolphins and that we have a Hurricanes home final for the Super Rugby?
Well, after I'd not watched the Warriors until this weekend, and I decided I was free and I watched it. I won't watch another game, which should mean they have a better run into it. Yeah, it was quite disappointing. I watched them for half an hour and I turned it off because I was obviously a bad chum. I think working with the Warriors has been really positive. They're a good organisation to work with. They're going to do some work in the community with us. They're very committed to making sure the event in Wellington is very successful. And we're having sort of initial discussions about how we can extend that partnership beyond this year.
And it's probably brought different organisations to come out and partner with us and with them around the event as well that maybe wouldn't have been supporting T20 cricket or Ed Sheeran. So it's brought a different group of businesses out, which has been really positive.
Great, thank you. I have a question regarding what you were saying about either the replacement or rebuilding the stadium. Are there any enhancements that you have in mind that you could actually add to it before we actually proceed to looking at the replacement?
Yeah, I mean the stadium has a book life of 70 years. It has probably a real life of between 40 and 50 years. So we're not talking about replacement. It's not imminent replacement. I think what we'll do through this master plan process will be outlining what the medium and long-term options are. The long-term options will be very much long-term options. I think what we do need to do, and we've started to do some thinking about it around how do we actually make sure that the stadium is still fit for purpose in 5, 10, 15, 20 years through minor redevelopments as we go towards there, to make sure that we're still delivering the expectations of both our hirers and our customers and delivering those exceptional experiences.
And I also think we're fortunate that there's now been a number of these mid-sized stadium developments around Australasia and broader, that they've got broader ideas to the Deputy Mayor's perspective. So I think we've got more material about the opportunities about what could be done, whether it's part of redevelopment or something else. So I think there's a really good opportunity there. But as Warwick says, that's a master plan over the next 20 years, but certainly something on the mind.
Great, thanks. And regarding your comment regarding the competition from TV when something is televised, what would attract people to actually come to a live game rather than watching TV? Would it be something like an opportunity to meet the players, to mingle with them, or maybe even have a function or something after or before the game?
Yeah, I think my comment was specifically around our current environment where money is a little bit tight, or people don't want to spend money on petrol. And no, it's been a challenge for sport in many markets for a long time. It is creating those experiences in the stadium or at the match that you can't get on TV. So it is getting close to the players. It's what you can do around, it's giving an experience that you don't get from the sofa. If you just want to watch the football or the cricket or the rugby and you're not so worried about the experience, you might prefer broadcast. But we believe, and I've worked in live events for 20, 25 years, that events are better live. There is a visceral experience that people can have whether it's a music event, whether it's a sporting event. And it's making sure that those experiences are highlighted and people have opportunity. So the Hurricanes match on Saturday, for example, the kids got to run around on the field afterwards. And it's those things that, will bring people back because the kids have a great time. They'll pester mum and dad, hopefully, to buy tickets for the next match, and they come back again.
No, that's great, thanks. Do we have any more questions? Anyone have any ideas? No? Great. Thanks very much for coming in. Much appreciated. Thank you. Right. Sorry. Now we have Blair from the Basin Reserve Trust. Welcome, Blair.
Thank you, and lovely to be here. Firstly, just like to pass on the apologies of Alan Isaac and Todd Bryant. There's currently a fundraiser going on for Luke Woodcock, who's an ex-Black Cap and Firebird player. He was recently diagnosed with a brain tumour, so they are there supporting that event. So unfortunately, I think I made this joke last time, but it got a laugh, so I'll try it again. You're with the B team. Let's hope their faith in me is not misplaced, although I do realise I've gone a little bit slide-heavy compared to everyone else, and being last, I do apologise for that, so I'll try to whip through them as quickly as I can. Very good. So our purpose and vision, as I'll start with, and we see ourselves as a village green. So it's a community asset that's used for everyone, and it's used really widely and really broadly, which is great. We want to deliver premier international cricket at the venue. We want it to be a highly valued public space, and it's obviously got a lot of historic and cultural significance. I note there was a few comments about how all the other CCOs have been around for, and just sort of doing a little bit of math, as we started, we're about 158 years that's been there, so it's a long time, and it's a really historic asset that we've got in the city. In terms of our objectives or responsibilities, it's really just to maintain and to manage the Basin Reserve for now and for future events, to deliver cricket, sport and more broadly wider recreation activities, to grow community and event use, to preserve the heritage values of the ground, to operate sustainably and efficiently, and then also to try to source various fundings and partnerships to make sure it's more sustainable moving forward. In terms of our strategic alignment, obviously it's in terms of the social aspect, it's accessible and it's inclusive for everyone. And it's a great community and great community venue and really great for youth engagement through that space as well. In terms of economics, visitors and events really do bring a lot to the economy that we can offer here. Cultural, in terms of that space, we're still in a building phase, I think. Just currently today, we've had Te Atiawa down to deliver a gifting ceremony for the Women's World Cup in collaboration with the New Zealand Cricket Museum, which was a really great initiative that we're really supportive of. As Cricket Wellington, we're also working with our Māori cricket committee to see how we can promote Māori cricket at the basin as well, and open to explore that in other areas. In terms of our targets, they're up there. They haven't changed too much from the last statement of intent. It's around producing ticketed cricket events, producing practice days, working with Black and Gold to deliver as many functions as we can at the venue, trying to get as many attendees through the gate. And notice those numbers are slightly smaller than some of the previous presentations that we hear today, but that obviously doesn't include just general flow through the stadium, or through the ground, sorry, in a day-to-day usage, and then try to increase that event income as well. So we really want to be a high-use, multi-purpose city asset. In terms of community and events, we've got junior football starting soon, so really looking forward to getting more sports out on the ground. Community cricket, we're looking to increase that year on year to provide more access to the community to play. We recently completed our Kilikiti Festival there, which was another great event to have at the ground. In terms of major events, we've mentioned a couple of times, but no beers at the basin this year. We are close to securing a replacement for that, and hopefully by the Q2 meeting we'll have an update for you. And in terms of wider events, we're really working closely with Black and Gold to see if we can increase the number of events we have, increase the reach, and work with them to try to promote the venue a little bit more for day-to-day use. In terms of the cricket, it looks like I've got a couple of similar issues that Danielle was having, but slightly more minor in terms of the formatting there. We really see the opportunities around creating experiences for people to come in and watch cricket. I know Warwick talked about it before, but we've had conversations around, what does a T20 look like? How does the ground look to set up to that, but versus what it looks like in a test match versus what it looks like in a one-dayer, just to try to differentiate those options and provide different experiences for them. Again, we'll look to host the Firebirds and the Blaze. There was about 51 matches last year, and not exactly sure what that's going to look like for the next season, but hopefully we've got the same or a similar amount of games. Just waiting to see what happens with the international schedule as well. That's to be confirmed hopefully in the next few weeks, and like I say, at that next update we have for you, we should be able to confirm what that international schedule looks like. There's a few uncertainties. We're just working through the tender process at the moment for the turf maintenance, and that should be, again, that's nearing a decision, and we should have an update for you. The rising costs associated with maintaining the turf are obviously very apparent, and everyone's mentioned the fuel prices, fertiliser costs, and just the other costs that go up with maintaining that asset. The international schedule still to be confirmed, and then the future of the domestic T20 game is up in the air at the moment with NZ Cricket supporting in principle the NZ20, which will look to start in January 27 for the men and December 27 for the women, which could be a really exciting opportunity for us as well in that space. In terms of revenue and sustainability, we've just extended getting close to extending the deal with Cello for another year, our naming rights sponsor. We're working really closely and looking promising in terms of monetising some other advertising and signage around the ground as well, which will help the bottom line. We've had a little bit of problems around some of the digital billboards, but we're working with council to try to come up with solutions there. Obviously, the challenge for us is just balancing that heritage with trying to get advertising at the ground as well, which is something that we're really conscious of. And uncertainties, and then obviously just also looking to do a bit of a stock take on what our venue hire is and make sure that what we're charging out for the venue is appropriate, whether that's at New Zealand Cricket, whether it's for Cricket Wellington, or whether it's for our community usage. In terms of our permanent tenants, we've got Cricket Wellington, obviously I'm employed by, and then the New Zealand Cricket Museum, which is down there as well. A couple of the comments early from the other CCOs were just around support with various council or for some of the positions. We're looking to lean a little bit more in with Cricket Wellington around supporting events, supporting comms, strategies, promotion, those sorts of things as well. So just to diversify what the basin does wider across the team, which we think will help just sort of take advantage of some of those people who have got specialist skills in those areas as they go through. In terms of our infrastructure, we've talked about it a little bit. but we have recently completed a couple of broadcast upgrades, which have been really great. Recently upgraded the changing rooms and recently had a turf renewal. Our next priorities are all really big pieces of work that cost a lot of money. They will lead to increases in revenue and reduction in costs, but obviously the initial capex is really high. So we're working to scope those projects out at the moment, and then uncertainties that underpin that are just really the State Highway 1 project and what that means, time frames, how it impacts planning, and also how it impacts delivery if and when that project goes ahead. Financials and risks. I think you said cable car was quite small, and I was sitting there thinking when you said the $3 million revenue, and we're about half that. So yeah, slightly smaller than that again, obviously. But we're looking at an operating deficit pre-depreciation of about $186,000. That was a very conservative budget. The CCO timing doesn't really line up that well with our timing. Once we find out what the internationals are like, once we find out another few things, that'll put that piece together, and hopefully it'll bring it a little bit closer to that zero mark, which we're confident of. We just didn't want to overestimate and then underdeliver. So certainly as we go through that, we'll keep you updated with what those reforecasted budgets look like and hope to get them closer to the zero or a balancing of the books. There was a question last time just around the rates, so we got a bit of an update on that. So it's about $80,000 that we pay towards the council for rates as part of those costs. But we are working to decrease that loss. Like I said, the capital works will help that year on year once the capex is out of the way. We're looking around billboards and signage just to get some additional revenue at the ground. Haven't considered glamping, but it could be a really good idea on the lawn or as part of it as well. I think we'd have the same issues around fertilisers with the lines, but they're more than welcome to come up on the banks. Maybe we could put some enclosures around there, and there's certainly plenty of room for the birds and the pahutakawas around the ground as well. So happy to have that as part of those discussions. And then, like I say, there could be some significant upside with that NZ20 as well if that comes through. We're just waiting to see what that happens. And as we've said, we're really keen to work to make, well, I haven't quite said it, sorry, I think we've said it publicly, but really keen to work with particularly the stadium, ensuring that we do get a Wellington team for that franchise, which I think would be really important for the city. So we'd look to engage with Warwick and the team around that when, and Wellington NZ obviously when those times come. Very good, 18 seconds. So summary, obviously the basin's a high value community and a nationally significant asset. Our focus is really around increasing utilisation of the basin to strengthen the financial sustainability, to invest in the critical infrastructure, to balance the commercial and community use, which is obviously really important, and then maintain the ground as a world-class venue. Thank you. Any questions?
Great, thanks very much, Blair. I have a question regarding your consideration of risks in international matches. So what is the procedure with that? Does the International Cricket Council look at where they actually want to have tours, or are you competing against other venues in New Zealand, or even these fixtures not coming to New Zealand?
Yeah, I guess it's both really. So I think New Zealand Cricket work with the ICC around allocation of the tours as they come through, and then once they've been established or given to New Zealand, I suppose there's a bit of a bidding process. So we work really closely and are thankful for Wellington NZ who support the bid. Also work with the stadium in terms of which games Wellington get and which games would be appropriate to go into either the basin or into the stadium. But yeah, it's a little bit of both.
Mm-hmm. So are there things that you can do or we can do to actually enhance the opportunities for these to come to Wellington? Like when they decide on what venues to actually use, what criteria do they have that we can't fulfill, or that we could do something to actually make these?
Yeah, speaking for the basin, I think it's in those capital investments. So lights would be great, and trying to get some day-night tests and those sorts of things, and just the smaller scale ODIs and T20s. Mm-hmm. The broadcast costs, so currently at the moment we've got the scaffolding up at that southern end. Mm-hmm. That can only be broadcast on under certain conditions in terms of wind speeds and those sorts of things, so a permanent structure would really help in that space as well. And then more hospitality, more seating, all those sorts of things, or more capacity would be really important in terms of trying to secure more games.
Great, thank you. Now we have a few questions. Councillor O'Brien.
Hey, just wondering, since your last year, if you've had any further engagement with Waka Kotahi around the State Highway 1 project?
Yes, we met with them a couple of weeks ago. We've also got a meeting next Thursday around what that looks like.
So it's positive discussions?
Yeah, they're positive discussions. Just really talking about the meeting last time was really talking about egress and exiting to and from the venue, which is really important, particularly given that we're currently surrounded by State Highway. But yeah, so that was the draw. That was the main part of those discussions recently.
Councillor Rowiti.
Thank you, Chair. Blair, also I asked Danielle about the effect of fuel. I notice your lawn's a bit bigger probably, so you do have mowing issues and things, but assuming that maintaining the turf costs extra in fuel, are there other areas that the fuel crisis that you're watching?
Yeah, we keep keeping a close eye on it. Obviously, in terms of the fuel and the maintenance of the ground, fertilisers, as I mentioned earlier, those things are all dependent on it. The additional spend, people wanting to come to the ground and spend money when they're at the ground are also, factors that contribute to it as well. It would be great to get some more electrical equipment to maintain the turf. Obviously, that costs a lot in terms of that initial outlay, which, certainly long term it could be a really beneficial option. It's just finding that capital at the start, as everything is, in the trade-off between, putting up with some short-term pain versus, trying to get some more money for long-term assets. But those are the main ones. We'll see how it goes. If it gets considerably worse, then that could obviously escalate into having more issues down the track.
Great, thank you. Deputy Mayor McNulty.
Thanks, Chair. I'm just curious to understand better this intersection between heritage and the ability for you to do advertising or put up signage. What's the specific issues that you're running into?
We're just working through something at the moment. We've got a proposal for some illuminated billboards to go up. Because of the heritage status of the ground, there's some considerations that need to have there. So for that process to go through, it goes through the council's heritage team. So we're just having some negotiations at the moment around where they can go and where's best. Obviously, it's compounded as well by the upcoming roading issues, and Waka Kotahi is having some involvement in that as well.
So it's council's heritage team, not Heritage NZ that you're...
Council's team, yes, it's my understanding.
All right, thank you.
Councillor Tiffenbarker.
The people you're having a conversation around signage with, is that external companies, is it?
Yes, it is, yep.
Great, thanks very much for... Oh, sorry, one more.
Have we considered the option of maybe using the signage as a revenue gathering option by actually owning the signage rather than actually externally supplying it? Just because that's something that I'm actually quite interested in actually us looking at as a council, that's all.
Councillor Tiffenbarker, we are looking at that across as part of the Revenue and Financial Working Group. That was a recommendation that came on there. So working out how we can expand our advertising network. In relation to the basin, this is a specific initiative from the basin to generate revenue to help support some of the things we have been unable to fund. So it is a opportunity with a media company that would give them really good revenue. If we did it, we would probably take that revenue and we might allocate it differently. So this one is specifically how the basin can fund basin upgrades.
Okay, I don't fully understand that. Okay, I'll leave it like that for now.
Happy to discuss more at a later. I'll come to the next quarterly meeting with covered a little bit more specifically.
Great, thanks very much, Blair. Much appreciated coming in and giving us this update. When you change your mind about glamping, please come to us.
Thank you very much.
Great. That brings us to the end of the workshop. Thanks very much for coming in, everyone. And thank you very much for your questions. Much appreciated. If you think of anything else that we would like to ask these CCOs, please send your questions in. Councillor Randall.
Yeah, I just wonder if Anna could just outline what's the next step from this that we will see in terms of finalising statements of intent.
Yeah, the next step is obviously review any of the recommended feedback that we have provided, and then we email that following this meeting. We email that unless anyone's got any additions. So we email that, then we receive an updated SOI, which goes through the next goes through the May committee meeting, the June meeting, and that gets kind of ratified there. So yes, if you've got any specifics, so the briefing pack that Jamie sent prior to this meeting has got the specific feedback that we are recommending gets sent. If there's anything in addition to that, please let Jamie or I know. We can make sure it's incorporated into, if you're wanting to see a specific wording change, for example, in any of the CCO's SOIs.
So we can just enter some comments in the feedback form that have already been sent.
Correct.
And then return it to you guys.
Thank you, Councillor Randall. That will be great.
Can I add to that? I think ideally that would have been today in terms of feedback, because then we would then provide the feedback prior to Easter. But by all means, please do provide some feedback if there is some additional feedback.